Dr. Ngomezulu, our renowned traditionalist and specialist in traditional medicine practices, who's known for his divinity in spirituality here in South Africa and worldwide. We are gathered here in one of his temples. Doctor, we welcome
you. Thank you very much for the opportunity and having me on your show, and welcome again to our great temple known as Umabongendlini. I'm not sure if I should translate that, but it basically means those who are thankful inside of the houses of the temples. Thank you very much again for having me on the show.
Thank you. So now with the response to the socials, where your people followed you, people heard that you took a journey to West Africa. Please, Doctor, share with us the experiences, the reasons behind your journey, and was it a successful one?
Well, success is a very complicated term, but maybe one should just give a brief description of what was the journey about. The whole journey into West Africa started for me specifically quite some time ago, where I was sent to West Africa, specifically Ghana. And unfortunately, due to the enormous cost of the journey, one could not reach Ghana. Secondly, obviously, there were a lot of complications around that. Fortunately, this year, one was able to undertake the journey. Needless to say, traveling is in Africa in general is easily one of the worst traveling experiences that one could undergo. But this obviously was the case as well, where we had, I think, almost 3 weeks, even before I had the ability to take a flight going into Accra. However, once one arrived there, we went specifically to the shrine of the greatest spiritualist in the whole wide world, the renowned Nana Kwaku Bonsami, where we were welcomed by him in person. As maybe others will know, there are numerous temples that he is in charge of and in control of around the whole of Ghana, the Republic, and is a well-traveled and well-vested traditional healer, one which we as traditional healers and in general across the broad spectrum of spiritual work is the most renowned and the most powerful of traditional healers of our times. I think that should summarize the greater part of maybe our experience and the journey, and obviously our arrival there.
Thank you, Doctor. I may say this one was one phenomenal. Now, with this journey, what would you promise to your people? What's new from this journey that will gradually make your people pay meticulous attention to you and your services?
Well, the journey of spiritual healing is not a service. It is a calling. Maybe it is a service to a calling, and as such, it becomes very difficult to make promises. But maybe one should share the experience and the changes that the experience has brought, and the significance of the changes in terms of how one now has got a better ability to assist in particular my people, and in greater greater emphasis on the African diaspora at large. First of all, we must have an understanding of the significance of this journey. This journey has enabled myself and my traditional house of healing to possess one of, if not the most powerful gods in Africa. That basically translates into a heightened level of authority spiritually, and it obviously enables myself as a traditional healer and as a senior one as well to maybe become one of the most powerful traditional healers in my time in this country. It also cements a journey for me in my traditional journey, and the most important part of this journey is the fact that you now have got the great god Kofi in our midst. Those who have knowledge of this god or of these gods will know that they have performed acts or spiritual acts which are beyond miraculous. And we are quite privileged, if one were to say, for the better lack of another word. Specifically, I'm very happy for my country and for my people that they have got this level of power, this level of spiritual intervention in their midst.
Well, Doctor, thank you for that. But the following question is none from my list. I'm just curious. So, do you traditionalists occasionally take journeys as such of this nature?
Well, journeys, in my view, and this may be a view I've always held, and maybe one of the reasons why one has maybe been revered as a traditional healer. And my view has always been that one cannot really have a point where they can say traditional healing or spirituality is sufficient. And this goes back to the fact that spiritual healing is a very, very long journey of learning. And if one views it in this particular manner, it means that one must always travel. And it's not always just traveling for me, because even traditional healers from other countries come to me as well. So it is a journey of interacting with my peers to engage and to cement spiritually new ways of working, to exchange spiritual knowledge, to safeguard, and this is very important, to safeguard the spiritual space. As you will see, and now it is common knowledge, we have had a very huge erosion of spirituality, and particularly in my country. Unfortunately, other countries, have got very big vanguards against spiritual erosion. But in my country, we have seen a lot of fake traditional healers, a lot of fake information, a lot of non-existent positions spiritually that have come to the fore because of social media, because of access to information by people, and the emergence of this new class of traditional healing, which in my view has sought to do nothing but to completely demolish our work as traditional healers in this country, which is South Africa, in my area which I service, which is sub-Saharan Africa. And with this erosion, traveling for me, it becomes much more important. And having these abilities and powers for me has become even more urgent. And the reasoning behind it is because we must put a stop to all of this nonsense. And we must bring back to traditional healing the truth about it. We must dispel the lies, and we must cement our position as traditional healers, as people of this great power and authority, and people of this great responsibility here on earth, and beyond the borders or the boundaries that we've put for ourselves as human beings. We have the responsibility, specifically those who still take this as the height of all callings, the height maybe of all blessings. We have a responsibility to safeguard our healing, and one of those things is for us to meet physically, and for us to meet as well spiritually in the realms to discuss, make decisions, and correct a lot of things.
Thank you, Doctor, for keeping us ahead and help us being cautious of misinformation and false position of powers. So, to your followers, some are youngsters and probably you are their role model. What advice would you give to them?
Well, I would say that maybe they must understand fully the nature of who they are. And one of those things, and one of the most important of those things, is that we are not human beings. And we cannot act like human beings. We cannot think like human beings. We cannot carry ourselves like human beings, even though we are of human nature. And I say that specifically because there is a very big movement that I see which seeks to eliminate the idea that traditional healing, or traditional healers more specifically, are human beings. And if I look at things as they are, and the state of traditional healing, that is why we find that there's been a lot and a growing a consensus to create traditional healers who are materialistic, who are successful, who have got money, and who wear good clothes, who are seen in nightclubs, who are seen wearing tattoos, and at the end of the day, that is not traditional healing. And the more that you align yourselves with the things of this world, the things which are human in nature, the more that you will lose a calling if you've got one. I think that's the first principle, or the first advice. My second advice would be to to basically be a warning. I think even if it is advice, there are things that you cannot ascend to unless they have been given to you. Do not look at uThekwane and see these horns and think that the height of my traditional healing, I must also have horns, or I must wear these bangles because this is a great traditional healer. Your path is your path, and it is your path alone. And it must be your path alone because it is only you who have been called by your ancestors. My path is mine, it is mine alone. And so is the path of the other. And it is important that we understand where we really stand in the complexity of this map of traditional healing as individuals, and how big is our contribution, and where is our contribution. Because if you don't understand what is it that you are here to contribute, you will not understand what is it that you are here to heal. And if you do not understand what you are here to heal, you will not heal. So I think that for the younger generation of traditional healers who follow me and who come maybe from my house of traditional healing, and others who follow other traditional healers, is basically that. And just to close on that, the path of traditional healing, and the reason why you've got a spiritualist or you've been given a spiritual leader, is very specific. And I say that with great emphasis. It is not everybody who will come under my head of traditional initiation. And it must not. Because those who are not called to me cannot be healed by me. And those who have been called to others have been called to others specifically so that they can be healed by those. Because in this age of celebrity, traditional healing, and celebrity cultural wokeness, we have aligned ourselves, or there's this continued alignment of ourselves with people who have been successful. And maybe one in closing, I know I've been closing quite a number of times, maybe one in closing on that particular statement. I come from, and I was trained by men and women who come from mud houses, who slept on floors, who scoured the mountains on barefoot looking for medicine. I'm a product of those people. My medicine and my traditional houses are still of that same upbringing. My traditional healing is still of that same nature. When I initiate people, there's nothing, and I say this with confidence, there's nothing that is different from what I was initiated by. There is no consciousness on my part of the technological age that we're in, or of the want to become like others, or of the recognition of anything besides what I know and what I went through. So the notion that must be different must fall away. And if it does not fall away voluntarily from people, we shall make it follow.
Thank you, Doctor, for sharing with us those wise advices. Who's got ears heard? I don't know if there's such thing. But all in all, we have learned that we should never accept dogma, which is unquestioned information. So choose your spiritual path wisely. Now, the last question, but not the least, Doctor, please, can you evaluate the effectiveness of practicing indigenous knowledge system?
The indigenous knowledge system, as we know it, has been greatly eroded. That is why we see now, and this is what maybe it's unfortunate that we were initiated during the time, or during times when we did not have the platforms that we've got today. Because we could see that indigenous knowledge system being eroded. And to be very honest with you, it was the erosion of that system started when we had people who were educated coming into the system, were initiated. And you now had nurses and doctors and all these people who now had spirits, who now came through spiritually, and that is when we found a substantive force of movement which started eroding these indigenous systems, because we had now a lot of explanations that we would not have normally had. A lot of things then started coming through at that time. But as it stands now, if one were to really say we are giving an overall health check, we are giving an overall maybe synopsis of this system, we would say it has collapsed. There's been a total collapse of these systems, as it were. But at the same time, we are very hopeful. People like myself are very hopeful and are very confident that we shall definitely restore the required dignity and the required knowledge in those systems.
Thank you, Doctor, for the time. Please help us, help your people, and even more. We thank knowledge that you give to us, the doctrines, and bringing the enlightenment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.